Welcome, Soul Tribe. Tonight we have one of my very special favorite guests. We've got my good friend Barry Littleton. Thank you for joining us tonight, Barry. How are you doing?
I'm good, so it's good to see you. Thank you for having me on. It's
Oh,
always
you're
good
so
to
welcome.
connect with you.
I love it. And, we'll sometimes set the tone with, okay, tonight we're talking about alien encounters. And then we always go down twists and turns and rabbit holes. But my favorite thing is hearing your stories about like your clients in hypnosis and what comes up. Um, yeah, so I'm happy to sort of go where the rabbit hole leads us tonight. So if there's anything that you want to share with us, update us on. I've just been refreshing myself with some of your work. Let me just pop up. I'm going to share. I've been like really getting into because I've had two dreams last week around implants. And so it's just
Really?
like put my mind to get back into this. And I don't think we've even had a chance for me to text you and like catch up on this. I keep
Hmm.
dreaming that I have a drip and it's in this arm. And even throughout the daytime, it's the weirdest feeling like a drip is still in my arm. I can literally feel it physically. So there's dreams of me trying to pull it out and being in sort of a hospital like scenario. The weird thing is, it's not like our normal drips, like in hospital situation, it would be laying just flat on the arm. This one is like a little plastic tube that's like comes out and then has an L shape to it. So something I've not seen before, I guess, in a physical sense. So yeah, there's so much that I want to talk about and ask you tonight. Can you give everyone a little bit of a refresher around your background?
Sure. I'm basically a stressed out brother, paranoid. That's about the gist of it. No, I've had lifetime of contact experiences, and I was one of those individuals. I think, like so many people, especially probably in your audience, it was kind of born awake. I had some past life memories and things like that, but very awake, always very aware of people in the situation here. And at a very young age, probably when you start about 5, I could remember weird things happening. But at 7, they really ramped up, having just weird experiences that were like contact experiences, what we now call non-humans. And also as a medium and psychic, but I was unaware of that for a long time until I finally got attacked by it. And I wouldn't call it earthbound spirit. I would call it, I guess, a ghost. But the thing is that when we have these people that are horrible people in life, and they're full of hate, and they do things, whatever it might be, molester, whatever the case is, and then they die, and they turn to something worse. You know what I
Mm,
mean? I got attacked by something like that, and that's at that point that I was like, man, oh Lord, please take it away. At least, at
wow.
least, at least that that being aware of what ghosts were. I mean, because now that I'm older, I'm just to give an example. I was in a uncle was renting, and it was an old house, and it creeped me out. The basement felt cold, the temperature was off, and it's down there. I got assaulted telepathically. I was getting picking up, get out, get out, get out, and it felt like like when I said being a beautiful woman. I'm sure you've had somebody come up behind you like a football player or something, just grab you to surprise you and pick you up. When they
It's
squeeze you,
happened.
you
It's happened a
automatically
few times.
yeah, right on. It's like so. That's when you automatically inflate when you get any kind of constriction like that. You inflate. You feel that.
Yeah,
And I
that's
know
true.
now that I'm older, I know that basically this individual was probably trying to join with me and couldn't because I was protected already. But the next thing was get out and was pushing me out. But that is like some punk that's so real tough to pick on a 7-year-old kid. That takes a lot of testicular fortitude there. But
I love your terminology. It's like
yeah,
nothing I've ever heard before. And it's so
but,
synchronistic. I just actually did a show on Ghost yesterday. And so we
mhm,
were
mhm,
talking about, beings that are in the astral being able to hook in, especially if someone's drinking alcohol or,
mhm,
other things like that, that open up that passage or doorway for that spirit or astral entity to link in and still
mhm.
experience some kind of physicality. So yeah, we're always synchronizing. I love that with you.
And the fact is, let's just face it, it's not pleasurable, but we are surrounded by demons, surrounded by negative inorganic beings. And to make it worse, we are absolutely influxed and surrounded, and this planet is populated with not with earthbound spirits. I mean, so you want to talk about the work I've done. I actually took a couple months off from that part of my life because I just had to just kind of regenerate, get back on track. You know what I mean? Make sure I've crossed a lot of them now, and some of it started getting like a little bit just a trip. I had to really process everything. You know what I mean? But it's to the point of where I can promise you this. And I'm starting to get this a lot. It's a trip because people that are coming for sessions are people that are hypnotists themselves or specialists in certain things themselves. And a lot of times they'll think, well, there's no way I have like any earthbounds attached to me. And they do, especially the people that tell me, oh, I've done my shadow work. Man, there'd be a bunch of them attached. And it's just part of it. And when it's over, they look at me and go, my God, I can't believe I picked them up. I mean, I get that a lot. You know what I mean? But the fact is, a lot of them join with us when we're in the hospital, we're in the crib, when we're little kids. I mean, babies, and they've been with us our whole life, and you don't detect that is part of of you. It's somebody else. It gets this serious. When I will do regression work, and I was laying something out here because I know a lot of people don't seem to know this that are quote unquote practicing. When they do these past life regressions, you have to be careful because if the person have earthbound spirits attached to them, they might be reliving that person's life.
Yeah.
And it's not really their past life. It's this person's. There's very few indications to tell you that. So I'll always get rid of, earthbounds first normally before doing a past life. Normally, it's just a good practice. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I guess that's, when we look at things holographically, and all animals on Earth pretty much get parasites. And it's so interesting how, and I'm just thinking of this to do with the astrology for this week. It's very kind of like baiting energy. It's almost like dangling or putting something in front so that, there's something that whether it's arguments and things that they're baiting with. And we know some of these entities will also have certain favorite foods and, alcohol and things like that are kind of the gateway to open up and make more kind of psychic room. Is there anything experience-wise that really sticks out that you've seen like a phenomenal shift with your clients once they've removed these entities that would, I guess if they've been there for such a long time since childhood, or even, maybe generational, they would not be able to perceive themselves as being separate from that. Have you seen personality changes and things too after these things are removed?
Big time. And they'll tell me about it later. And the thing is that as earthbound spirits, and as a medium, like I can't detect these ones. They're not on the outside of the energy field. They're inside the energy field, and they're so ingrained, originating from a place of trauma, an organ of trauma, or a place of trauma, And you look at some like Maslow's work, you have actually what part of the body stores and muscles store actual trauma itself. I mean, to the point of where it's a trip because we incarnate from past lives, and it comes into our bodies now. I mean, that's a crap shoot, but I've had to deal with it quite a bit. You know what I mean? Somebody that has died in a past life and it was a traumatic death, and it's manifested, and that trauma is manifested in an organ of their body. And then you have earthbound spirits that attach to that, along with the negative organic beings, demonic, whatever you want to call them. They attach to those areas and then start emanating, then entwine so much in the energy field that you can't detect them. And the way they express themselves is in negative behavior patterns. A lot of times the ones that kept them here, earthbound. So addictions is a big one. It can be
Definitely.
sexual addiction, it can be alcohol, different types of drugs, even addicted to people. And in that such a presence like that, and may have mentioned this last time I was on, so I don't want to be repetitious. But like one of the earlier ones I had done, it kind of gave me a little bit of static. And there's a gentleman, and this is a female, and they start talking. The teacher starts talking like back in the 70s, somebody in the 70s, a CB type of person, a trucker or something. And the individual told me that they jumped her at the bar while she was watching the Chiefs, the football a few years ago, like their first championship or something. And they were watching that, and he says, everybody else in there is kind of burned out. It's a little bar that made me look it up. It's by my high school. It goes back to 1955, that thing opened. And it's changed names, And he says, well, everybody else in there kind of burned out. I said, meaning you've jumped them and they're drunks? Yeah, pretty much. And, but she came in, she was bright. And she came by the jukebox. That's my area. So I jumped her there because she wasn't having a very good time. And I was just show her how to have another drink. Uh-oh. Are you there still, Soul? Uh-oh. I'm still connected. You still there, Soul? Can anybody still hear me? I can't. Can anybody still hear me? I'm looking at the chat. You can hear me still? So, Marcia, okay. Is Soul still here? Can you still see her or hear her? Okay, cool. Okay, well, check it out. I'll just finish up, all right? Anyway, because I may have talked about this on the last show or something else. I'm trying not to do everything that's just repetition and cookie cutter. Anyway, so, oh, that might be her right there. Sorry, she just messaged. I'm trying to see what she said. What's she saying? Okay, that's her. She said she'll get back on soon. Internet dropped out over there. That's a trip that it kept me on. I guess we're supposed to all talk. Wow, that's a trip. Okay. Anyway, so these earthbounds get so entwined in energy field, connect to origins or parts of the body that you can't really detect them from the outside as a medium. But they actually express themselves as negative behavior patterns. In the case I was talking about, this individual said that he jumped her at the bar. And he says she wasn't having a very good time. So I was going to show her how to have another drink. And his whole thing when he died is he kept mentioning that across the street, there are these houses from this bar. I mean, directly across the street, like throwing distance of a rock. And he said that he went over to his house. He's saying, to do a couple of rails, I had some real good stuff. It was clean cut. So I went to go do a couple of rails, and I was going to go back for last call. And when he goes back for last call, he's crossing the street and had a heart attack. Felt odd, had a heart attack, and died in the street. But his last thing was go back to the bar for another drink. That was like his last intention upon death. So he kept doing that. After death, he went to the bar. He go over to his house, back to the bar, and he jumped her at the bar. Okay. And in turn, she wasn't having a good time because she had social anxiety. Okay. So being in a situation like that is anxiety, even if it's with coworkers and stuff. All right. So, and in turn, the individual also has a propriety to be alcoholic. They weren't, but the genetics for it. And so what this individual does is pushing them towards that. And then, he says this to me. He says, but she can really, really put them away. And when I get her so drunk that she blacks out, that's when I feel the most alive. That's what he said. Okay. And he was one that gave me a little bit of static. And at first he's saying, you're going to try to trick me. You're going to try to trick me. That's the first communications through her he had with me. That's what how am I going to try to trick you? You're going to try to make me leave and go in that light. I'm not going in that light. I won't do it. I won't do it. I won't do it. I'm like, well, you're not going to stay with him either, but why not? Well, because in the light, I'll have to change and I can't get another drink. So there is that behavior pattern. Oh, there you are. Hey, what's up? I was just talking. Everybody said they could still hear me. So I was just talking like a weird guy. Yeah. It's real weird. I said something was going to happen. Huh?
Yeah, I could feel it. There's like astral entity electrical things. So I tried 3 lots of internet then. I was on plug-in, so it should not have dropped at all. Then the internet modem just started lighting up, going crazy. And then I tried Wi-Fi. I tried hotspotting from my phone, which is a different internet company. So we know when we talk about these topics, our computers become the target of attack. So thanks for holding the fort, Barry.
Yeah, no problem. It was my pleasure. Yeah, I think I just actually finished that up too. That's just a situation of behaviors that will keep somebody here. And to be honest, that shows a lot about our free will. People say we do have it because we can not go into the light. We cannot cross over. And then you've got these people that are saying, oh, don't go into the light because it's a reincarnation cycle and you're going to forget everything, yada, 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 and tripping people out. And I've actually crossed Earthbounds that tell me, I said, why don't you go into the light? I'll ask a bunch of questions. The Earthbounds are quite chatty because they've been wanting somebody to talk to, but can't nobody hear them anymore. That's why they're joining with people. And if you don't come at them like you're Max von Sydow, you know what I mean? And if you actually talk to them, because they're people. And how did you like to be addressed when you were a person, especially when you were lost somewhere? You're scared, you're tripped out. They all tell me things consistently. It's dark here. It's very dark. Or I was told by somebody not to go into that light. It was a trick. And I was like, last time I encountered that, well, who told you that? My church. Didn't take a psychic to figure out that was a satanic church they were talking about they're involved with.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just little things like that. And we have people that, that are promoting that. So it's just a thing that I stand up with, because people that say that, okay, they say maybe they remote viewed it. It's one institute or something. Okay, how are they protecting themselves? We have entities that speak to us, put voices in our head, entities that have given us religions, entities that know us, to think that there's not some of these demonic forces that are targeting the new RV media deal going on, the remote viewers, is crazy. And any of them saying don't go in the light is bad advice. It caused earthbound spirits. And that caused suffering, soul, for not just the earthbound, but for the people I tend to kind of agree with Dr. Fiora and call it possession. To a degree, even though it may not seem with that intent. A lot of times, like they jump a baby at the hospital. So why'd you do that? Well, they're in an incubator room and they couldn't breathe. I was trying to help them to breathe. And they see that light and they don't recognize it's the light of another soul. They think maybe it's finally their chance to incarnate or to something. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's very, very interesting once we get in that state. And our energy fields are still functioning without the material brain, but our energy is still trying to recognize things and respond to stimuli the same way the brain did and perceive the same way the brain did, but it's not actually there anymore. But something about the personality, it doesn't die. That's the way it is.
Yeah. Well, and it's such a fascinating chat. I saw Emma was asking, or actually, I think it was Rainbow Sun. Here it is. So she wanted to know, and I might have missed this when my computer totally dropped out, did the guy go into the light?
What a good question. I'll answer that. What a delightful, good question. I can tell you yes, but you know what? I did it. I worked with cognitive behavioral, okay, for a long time. And what I'd use is cognitive behavioral on these earthbounds. And with this individual told me, several times, when to go on the light, okay, but then I can, as a medium, I can see if there's a portal there. I can see if there's loved ones there, ones wanting to help them to cross. I can see it before the earthbound. Okay. And the earthbound can't see it until you start referring to God and to light. I'm sorry, just to God and love, excuse me. And then the light comes without even suggesting the light. They're connected. I don't care what any of these other people say. They're connected, okay? So in this time, I could see this guy standing there, okay? And I do the process, and the individual gets, and this cat was quite chatty until that. And I said, well, what's going on? Oh, there's my father. I said, that's who it is? Yeah. But he's standing in that light. I'm not going in that light. I'm not going that light. I'm not going that light. And you know what I said? I said, well, you're not going to stay with her either, but tell me, you notice something about your father? He has a body, doesn't he? Yeah, but it's made of that light stuff, and he's younger than when he was. He's younger and stronger, but it's made of that light stuff. I said, yeah. And in this case, this is what I used. I said, well, do you enjoy living through this female? Hey, no. I don't like it when she has sex. I don't like that guy. I can't stand him. I said, I bet you can. It's not your body. I said, so you want to keep living through other people, or you want to go get you a body like that and just change? Silence for a while.
Yeah, powerful.
Later, dude, I'm gone, man. I'm going with my dad. And he took off, walked through, just
Wow.
dodging. Yeah, I mean, but it was a process that's what I use as opposed to trying to exercise this individual, which can be
Mm,
done, but that's not,
yeah.
I'm not here to battle. And that's more even the demonic level. I'm not talking about demonic. I'm talking about people like your
Yeah.
grandma and grandpa that are still here on earth because they couldn't let go of that house. They couldn't let somebody else move in there and redecorate stuff and tear up the land. Or you have loved ones saying, you've seen it at a funeral over the body. Please don't go. Please don't go. And then they wind up not.
Mm. Yeah. That connection that we have to people, even after death is so powerful. And I grabbed a book tonight. This is The Keys of Enoch, which you're really familiar with. Look at all the notes I've got in here. I had to pull a lot out so that I can put some new ones in. Anyway, Spirit's like, open up. There's something we want to talk to you about that's connected to do with tonight's show. And this was probably 5 minutes before you and I went live. Spirit likes to sometimes leave things till the last minute. I did want to ask you, do you know much about the Zohar light body? This, let me just bring this up. I also want to remind people, please go over to Barry's YouTube channel and like, share, and subscribe. He has some amazing videos. You are definitely one of my favorites with information out there.
You.
And also, if you guys want to hit that bell, that notification to catch more shows like this on Mason Jupiter as well. And I just want to remind you, we do have sessions currently available. So if you want to use discount code Jupiter to book, that'll save you 10%. And Barry also has Patreon as well. And for some reason, it says join for free, like on my computer, but like on my phone, it's coming up different. But just information and things that you share. Oh, and you can also follow Barry over on Facebook, and I will be popping up your email address again too. But when I actually brought up pictures, this is what comes up with the Zohar light body. And I'll just read the definition. It says the body vehicle of the outer light that permits the body to go beyond the light zone of immediate relativity. The body places a bond of light around the four other energy vehicles of incarnation so that the physical body can distinguish between the sacred space of light and the profane space of light. The coat of many colors, which is the foundation for the energy form, which corresponds with the brilliant and splendid structure of the heavenly Jerusalem. Through the Zohar body, the 72 area of the mind are balanced off. The microcosmos of the unconscious man ascends to sonship, and the place of dwelling within the Father's throne, the Zohar body functions in Trinity with its over-self body and the anointed Christ over-self body, which receives direct revelation from the throne worlds of the Yod-Heh Vod-Heh. So randomly talking about this, and the Spirit literally like highlights to this because we hadn't spoken about light bodies or about, I guess, entities in that wanting to hang out in our light and things too. So is there anything you want to speak about on this?
Sure. Do you notice how one of the last words in there was throne energies? We'll come back to that, right?
When I looked at that, I'm like, you've got so many videos talking about this. You're one of the only people that talk about the throne being.
Well, hey, thanks for saying that because as of lately, I normally stay away from ego type of stuff. There's several things that I presented for years now. You and I met; it's been 10 years ago, and people just now other people start running with it, and it's stuff that they've not experienced or known about. They literally steal it, and I never get any credit. I normally don't trip about that because it's ego, but it's at a point now. It's like, man, at a certain point, give a person their just due. You know what I mean? And I see that just going on a lot in these communities, people not acknowledging the originators of certain materials and information. It's really a trip because these people that want to be famous. Well, you and I know all about that, interacting with people like that. We can write our own book on that, man. Anyway. So check it out. Let's go back to the synchronicity of what you were saying. Very cool. Yeah. I'm very, very cool with this book. Now, this one here, okay, I got this one it was about a year and a half ago, in Vegas when I spoke there at the Stairway to the Star conference. And JJ Hertog was speaking there also. And, you know, he had a booth. So I stopped by his booth. And I want to get another, because for some reason I had lost my original copy, which you can see if you really read a book, they wind up looking like that, you know.
That is a well-loved
book. Yeah. For whatever reason, I had lost it though. I couldn't find it, and so I said I'm gonna get another one. So I asked him a question, and what I wanted to ask him about, okay, was about how he actually came to discover on page 217, 215, and 216. He's got the tri-pyramidal merkaba, okay? And without going through all these pictures here, I've got illustrations, and that's on my channel, of a ship that I saw that did that, okay? And I never could found anybody that had illustrated it or talked about this at all. Specifically on 216, it's the form that is the second. And I would show all these other pictures, but I'll have to grab them up and I'll get all excited and stuff. But I've got illustrations. Yeah. The second one down. I've actually seen a ship do that, man. All right, spirits all over me, man. Only you can make it go down like this, Soul. So I have to just respond to what they're telling me.
I love it, Barry. I love how you and I work this way. It's just, it's next level.
The ship had started off looking like that, okay, and then it started transforming. All right,
hold on.
And I mean, it started like it started morphing, and oh, sorry, they're not synced because sorry. Oh, here it is. Another one.
Yeah, I remember that one.
And then it turns into, and this is what you're seeing. He's got illustrated there. That is the tri-pyramidal merkaba. And those things were actually chemical illuminated or something, a bioluminescence from inside. Okay, but anyway, if that's the first time I'd ever seen that described. So I asked him, I said, where'd you get that information? He says, actually, those beings took me there to their home, and I saw it. And I said, okay, I've seen one too. And I described it to you, and all of a sudden he had me sit down. And it's interesting. For about 10 minutes, I had that man's undivided attention. And he signed the book and everything. We talked a little bit about the merkabas. Anyway, back to the Zohar light, okay? There's another one. Okay. They want me to tell you to also look up the Shinka light, Shekinah light. Okay, it should be in the glossary because I believe they're connected definitely. And when it comes to the Shinka light and also the Zohar light, I see now. There it is. I separated. Thank God. That takes us to these beings. Okay, these are what I call the throne beings.
Yeah.
And I had called them that initially because they seem to have these. They're on these pillars of light, and in the middle are these like crystals in the middle that I think represent these quasi crystals that actually represent the soul groups, and the soul groups go like our color spectrum. Roy G. Biv. So anyway, point being, they're on these columns, and that takes us all into throne energies and throne beings. Okay, so that light you see them on, actually, and that light they're emitting is a type of Zohar light for that light body, what they call that light body too. You know, but you've got these frequencies of light that are very different and attuned. You know what I mean? And sometimes people should look at that instead of thinking everything is dimension and density. Sometimes it's configurations of light. Like some of these craft are condensed light. You know what I mean? And so that these are things that just, conscious condensed light. And they have a way, and some of these craft, they have a way of polarizing, like living light, as they call it, which is involving almost a living, orgone light that's polarized to that type of a degree. It's very interesting. I didn't understand when I was a kid what I was seeing all the time, why I was witnessing all this, because I'd be tripped out, man, bad. I was all tripped out. I was like, as my brother said, you be freaking out, man. I said, yeah, that's right, man. I've been freaking out for years, man. But I mean, it's to the point of, though, for me, during these experiences, they were very positive. Now they tripped out my life, kind of ruined it a little because it's just hard to try to think about normal stuff after you've really been in the presence of a non-human. I mean, for real, no BS physically. You've been in the presence of one and they're emitting some type of a biofield, because one thing you want to be scared and freaked out, where they're emitting some type of biofield that's neutralizing that Then you're catching this love coming off of them. They're communicating through the optic nerves telepathically. It's a whole nother thing going on. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And then it gets
It's
worse
so
when you're
hard
not
to
in the
come back.
present. Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
it
when
gets
you
worse.
experience that.
Yeah, it gets worse when you're not in the presence of them and they turn around and you're gone. Suddenly it starts getting fragmented.
Yeah.
The further you get away from the event horizon of being in their presence or like being in the experience, it starts to fade. And that's the vibration difference. For a long time, I tripped out on why that happens like that. It's a frequency vibrational difference. I had to make sure they wiped my mind. It wasn't that, you know. And I
That's
get
so
very concerned,
interesting and
Soul, that right
synchronistic.
now, yeah, I'm getting very concerned that right now I see an attempt to completely rewrite the contactee narrative,
Yeah.
and I believe it's being done with neuroweaponry and people that are tagged that incarnate here. They know. I've come across that in some of this regression work I've done. They will tag somebody almost before they incarnate, and they know who the contactees is going to be. Have that Artron energy that term I stole from Doctor Who. They have that. I can detect it on other people like I detect it on you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
I'm the
it's
same.
that.
You can feel
Yeah.
you can feel it with others that are on that same soul group. And I actually had a regression just a couple of days ago with
Right
the
on.
lovely Jake, who's in the audience too. And it was interesting with all this talk of light tonight. And one part of it, I haven't had a chance to fully go over and review the session, but it was more linking in with higher self. And there's more surprises to come around, like what I'm talking about. But one of the things that was shown to me from higher self was that we can go into working with the photonic light that our soul has and start to, I guess, pulsate or integrate that down into more of a dominant timeline. And we can start to run that program or run that light frequency spectrum and choose, like, I guess, more what timeline we want to tap into. And since then, Spirit's just been at me like relentlessly for hours down the rabbit hole around photonic light. But it's something that we see and recognize. And I say this with my clients too, that, when you have babies or children that just sort of stare at you, or animals that gravitate to you, but you can usually see like who's an experiencer. You get a feeling, you get like a soul level. There's just something that's like really compelling. And it was the same before I even met you in person. And then meeting you in person, oh my gosh, it was a trip because I already knew you, but it just wasn't from this incarnation, this lifetime. Do you want to maybe speak a little bit more and elaborate on what you mean by like the soul tag and that the light that people are holding before they even incarnate here, and how we can recognize each other?
As far as on the contactee deal, that I think that's a result of when someone has actually physically been in the presence of one of these beings. That's one of the ones that have this life energy really popping off, or been on board one of these craft that actually operate on what is a black hole, a Mako. That's what they're actually using for transport, and some of them use that as a power source too. So you have actually some of them are actually grown around a mini Mako black hole. And so
Yeah.
that's why the engine is temporarily displaced. And why someone like me on board that ship is getting really sick because the inside and outside of the craft are not in the same dimension. You know what I mean? And the vibration and frequency aren't the same either. And whatever it is that they're doing is able to meet us halfway. Oh, it makes it difficult. Like for them, it's hard, but for me, wouldn't want to do it at this age now. You know what I mean? It's very hard. I think to survive it for too long would be very difficult. Anyway, you some people like okay when like before incarnating or between incarnations, like one of the regressions is called life between lives, and the person will go to actually a place that I call the place of translation and reconfiguration. Normally a guide will come, okay, and it's not like I don't have to sit there and say, hey soul, do you see your guide yet? It's
Yeah.
not like that. The process done right, they just naturally come.
That's
And
what I
they
found too.
yeah, and they escort the person. A lot of times the place of translation, it could be a library, an office, sometimes it's a nature spot, it could be a pond, a lake, where they go through the life lessons and choices from this particular incarnation and what they came to work on, and then they start feeling feeling the intent behind the choices. And when I died, I'd encountered some of that, a panoramic life review. It's like a
Mm.
flash though, but the truth is, I think when you look at something like the Tibetan Book of the Dead, it
Yeah.
describes the Bardo Thodol, and that's really called the Bardo Thodol, and the Bardo is actually the different astral levels we can incarnate in. This book here, the Uranta book, would call it the mansion worlds, and it
Yeah.
describes the mansion worlds that we go to after death, several of them. I think if for the people that are religious, I guess Christians, Yeshua had made a comment in the Bible, the Christian Bible, that in his father's house is many mansions. That's what was referencing, those mansion worlds. That's also like the Bardo at the same time. You know what I mean? So that's got a lot to do with, incarnation. But the thing is, the person has a choice of where they incarnate next. And I've done a few of these, quite a few, and I've asked every time. I asked because I want to know, hey, and I asked you, hey, is the light making you go over there and incarnate there? The person sitting there, they look at me like I'm kind of stupid. No. Is your guide making you do it? No, it's my choice. And I mean, it's been that every time. And
Yeah.
you would think the numbers would show something different data wise, especially what all these people are saying that aren't really doing the work. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, I know
Anyway,
exactly
yeah,
what you're
yeah,
saying.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's what I love about you as not just a researcher and an experiencer, like everything that you put forth, you still have an inquisitive mind. You're not claiming to know all of this or know all the solution. And I think one of my favorite comments that I saw, it was a little bit back. I think, oh, here it is. Lorianne, oh my God, been waiting 20 years for this kind of show, disclosure, probably reading that dyslexically back to front. But, this is the sort of thing that we live for. This is the real disclosure, talking about the experiences that come up in ET contactee events, the work that you're doing, talking about implants, talking about gray overlays, talking about the fungi and the consciousness. There's so many elements that people don't realize are interconnected. And I love it because you and I have some similar experiences or similar things. Like I've had the fungi reach out and communicate to me years and years ago. And it's fascinating. Can you maybe talk a little bit? I'm going to pop up this pic. I know your website's still being completed, but you did
Oh
have this.
God, my website sucks, man. I don't get on there at all. I'm not very good with
It's got
that
some
stuff.
good
That's
things.
why I went to YouTube a little bit.
Yeah. So I definitely will I've dropped your YouTube in as well, but I just wanted to utilize this great pic of the implant. Do you want to talk to us? Because I've had implants in my sinus cavity as well that were seen on MRIs. 6 days later, totally gone from it was on the X-ray of a wisdom tooth. It was like 3 to 4 centimeters, which I guess is a few inches in diameter. So some of these are organic, some of these are more kind of like nanofiber technology, and you talk about like the nanotubes. And do you want to maybe sort of talk about what you've seen in regressions? And I know Dr. Lear actually physically removed a lot of these as well. What do you think about implants at this stage? Because you've worked on it for so many years.
Those are actually two that were pulled from Dr. Lear. They're the ones that contain like 2 miles of carbon nanotubes in them.
That's right.
I mean and when you're dealing with something that's not quite almost microscopic, but I mean that's really small to have 2 miles of carbon nanotubes within it, and that means it's going into the technology that's a civilization that's dealing on the nanoscale. And if you want to go even smaller than that, you have civilizations that deal on what's called the pico, and the pico is even smaller, so small that they're doing inward universal exploration. I mean,
Wow.
like inner space. You know what I mean? If you think about a civilization that can put even more than that, more than 2 miles of carbon nanotubes in something that small, imagine what they could do with what we call in science fiction a Dyson sphere, which would
Yeah.
be like a complete encapsulation engineering feat that's in encapsulating an entire solar system, the sun and all the planets, and then harvesting that. Can you imagine the type of technology they would have inward revolution in that way? It would be a trip. So we don't think about contact like that with beings like that. And at some time, that's why they do this bilocation with this technology and consciously that takes our energy dream body from our physical body, because the dream body, the energy body, doesn't conform to the same physical parameters of this one. So you may be having an experience or you're walking around this ship that seems real big, but the truth is you've been reduced to the pico level. And you're dealing with a civilization that is very small. We don't know because we're beings of perception. You know what I mean? In that way. Anyway, sorry, you asked a question and that had nothing to do with what you asked. So what was the question again? I'm sorry.
Do you know what? I just go with the flow, and spirit will sometimes just shift me along to ask something different. But the vision I'm thinking of, like as you're talking about getting down into those pico levels, it's interesting because like in laser, there's the pico laser as well, which is able to like resurface and to regenerate. So I wonder if there's some kind of like regeneration, if you can tap in on that pico level where we can, like reset things to a certain value. There is another question as well that I'm about to pop up in a second from Tim. But yeah, I keep thinking of, when they zoom in on an iPhone and they get down on like a microscopic level and it's like a world within a world. And they say that, in terms of Earth technology, it's not possible to be able to create something like that. We know that on a macro level, looking at the pyramids or looking at other energy PowerPoints on the Earth, everything's sort of holographic and a reflection. Sorry, I'm going off topic now.
No, it's all right. It's all right. It's all right. I'll flow with you, because check this out. That takes us back again to mycelium and mushroom. That's what I'll be talking about. I just released a video on that today. I'll release another on Sunday, and on Monday I'm gonna go live about it. I'm just gonna tie this together. When talking about that, so I had Jessica Jones remote view. I give her these black blind targets all the time. Don't know what she's looking at. One of them was the moai of Easter Island. And the data was coming back, these mushroom robots, these fungal robots, and how they were being created were through these vortexes were happening. And they were like these almost microscopic, non-physical beings that were using technology that's similar to what we would call an acoustic, what our science calls acoustic scalpels. Which are also the way that actually probably some crop circles or not crop circles, sorry, cattle mutilations happen. That type of technology, like acoustic scalpel, that's new technology for us, but it leaves uncauterized wounds, like cattle mutilations. Yeah. But anyway, this technology that she's describing, it sounds like that. And these vortexes are coming around that are actually using that technology to construct these moai. But they were like these fungal cyborgs. That led me to go research, what's now called biohybrid robots. That is actually new technology that's just being made right now that involves these robots that have these fungal brains. A lot of people know how mycelium, they say it thinks, but they're actually using light to influence impulses on the mycelium to make the robots move. And that's exactly what she's describing. One of the targets was, I asked, how did the moai get from one side of the island to the other? Because the elders say that they were asked by the shamans of that time, and they just got up and moved over there. And when you see one of these mushroom robots moving when they do that, it's like, is that we're seeing the beginnings of that? That's crazy. Yeah. I mean, you can't just make that stuff up. Sometimes with those remote viewing targets, I get more than what I bite off more what I can chew. But when you give those blind targets, some of that stuff I think it won't be this and that, and it's totally something totally different than data. Anyway,
I think we showed one of those videos. I'm not sure if it was when you and I last spoke. There's definitely a show that I did do where they hooked in, I guess you would call it like the mycelium with the mushroom, and they hooked it up to a robot. There's a little spider one, and they've also got, I think, a bigger one, but it's interesting how it can move or repel from light too. So it's just interesting. And the Super Mario Brothers movie, I always talk about, they were trying to tell us, they're like the king that was the fungi that was giving them the little bombs and trying to help the people to, I guess, combat the reptilians. So it's like there's so many layers and codes and things hidden in movies. I just want to pop up Tim's question for you. Do you think that these implants can precipitate from another dimension and that's how that they show up out of the blue. So
Real,
I'm
real quick,
wondering, do they
real
actually
quick,
come from another dimension?
before I go to that one, real quick, one thing I was mentioning about those fungal robots, what they're trying to design is a skin for them, which is
Mm,
the same as what they're trying to design a radiation shield for the International Space Station. That was 4 years ago. I'm sure they're way past that now. That
yeah,
involves radiotropic fungus, which I've been talking about a long time. It's a melanin dominant fungus found on the walls of Chernobyl and Fukushima that
yeah.
uses melanin to convert gamma radiation into the growth cycle. So they're using radiotropic fungus to make new radiation shields for the space station and for, I mean, that I think is, and for these robots, a skin for these
Mhm.
mycelium robots that's also some type of self-repairing, replicating skin for them. I think
And that
that's
makes
really going to the next level.
And it's interesting because mushrooms are able to digest that radiation. So I wonder if that could also be used as some kind of like power source to be able to, like, how we harvest solar energy. I wonder if there's an energy that can also harvest and transmute from that. But that reminds me of some of the craft you and I have seen that have the living fungi centers as well. So they have that mushroom intelligence. Yeah.
And keeping it absolutely 100. The radiotropic fungus is using its melanin to do that. And there's also a bacteria, make sure I say it's like Rhinococcus, I believe it is. It's the most radiation um, resistant organism on planet Earth. It's a
Wow.
bacteria, a yellow bacteria. It's not melanin dominant, but this takes us into something I've been talking about a long time. I've been talking about how some of these organic craft I've been on board, they communicate with what's called the dark biosphere of the planet. Okay, and what that is the inner ocean that's inside of the Earth that contains 90% of Earth's undiscovered bacteria. So they're using a part of this bacteria and also fungus, this radiotropic fungus. There's a couple of different types to make this radiation shield. I mean
Wow.
that to me is just really really interesting. And when you start taking it to the next level, I'm I'll talk more probably on my live about actually how there's also a negative fungus that can be involved in this too, what they
Mhm.
call Wedico, the mind virus. I think
Yeah.
that could be fungal in nature more than even a Skynet type of thing. And we hear AI, it could be more connection to something like that, you know.
Yeah, it's definitely a deep rabbit hole to go down. And I think even just like I love the work of Paul Stamets and what he talks about with the mycelium network and the communication, and even how it speaks to our subconscious mind. I've had dreams and visions of fungus communicating to me and telling me you need to take this to like help get dampness out of your lungs, and then woke up in the morning, googled it, and like, oh my gosh, that particular like white lung looking mushroom actually does do exactly what it said. So I do believe that certain mushrooms and fungus are trying to help us advance. And it's interesting because you have some that are negative, black mold and things in the house and the spores that come from that. But I think one of the most fascinating ones are the ones that work with the caterpillars, where they get into the brain and they operate the nervous system of certain creatures. I think there's just so much to be learned from going back to a cellular or back to like the fungus level.
It. Excuse me. Also, you've got like in science fiction, like the body snatchers. That was they're a type of fungi of some type fungus. You know what I mean? So that's illustrated sometimes in entertainment as well. But it's really really interesting. And I because I couldn't understand at first the connection. Like when some of these walls were made of some type of, it wasn't pure mycelium because it
Mm,
wasn't like quite the consistency of what we call toadstools here, but it's harder, a more harder consistency. That's what makes me want to know what it's made of. And they start floating me how they make the things, or grow them.
yeah.
But, I think that's, something that's just very, what I underestimated is that as a space organism, how sentient the craft actually was, and the ones I've been on board. And I've been on one of them that actually they can make their own makos, their own black holes, and choose the one of the most coherency.
Yeah.
That's a type of sentientness, and I'm pretty sure like the ones I've been on board, like I wonder like one is why was they able just to walk around these craft? Be sick as an MF, so I'm not much of a threat. But nonetheless, I'm walking around. They're in your head though, and most of them are partially physical, although the craft is physical. You know what I mean? And that, so that was, I wonder why. But these are craft that I think have access to not just what we call the race memory here, but the soul memory. They know us from different incarnations. They know our intentions.
I agree.
And I underestimated how sentient these craft actually were. It's going on, take it to another level, and how symbiotically some of the craft have the crew are giving life energy we call kundalini to operate in sync with the craft. It's a symbiotic connection. Even some of the suits they have on are symbiotically connected on the conscious level as well. I've had one of these beings that actually bilocated my energy body, my dream body, with being, 20 feet away, and pulled my energy body towards it. And then, it was an odd feeling, but tell me, I don't know any humans that are capable of doing that through the optic nerves. Dislodging someone's energy body through the optic nerves, that's a whole nother level of consciousness we're dealing with there. And we hear so much of the negative experiences that we're entrenched with that, which they do happen. We've got so much the SSP right now. It's not for me to doubt people's experiences, but you've got neuroweaponry that are targeting people that are experiences like you and I, targeted before we even incarnate. And then, then they get put in this hive mind. People saying, well, I heard such and such talking about that. I realized, oh my gosh, that happened to me. I've been through that. And believe me, it's going to seem, with that type of neurotechnology, it's going to seem 100% real as anything any of us go through. But that's a problem right now. And they're using that to rewrite the contactee narrative to where people like you and I, what we talk about is being eliminated. Now, real quick, I'm going to reverse back to implants, okay? Excuse me. We've got the ones like you showed there, but also we've got concerning this neuroweaponry. Some of these implants are coming human, back engineered stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. And, there was actually a company in Australia that was producing these implants, this technology that, man, it's like $1 million for one of these implants. It's unreal. It was Australian technology too.
Oh, I hadn't heard of that.
There are people starting to get that removed and trying to go through government process and fight that. More to the point, I know a company right now, and I'll give you the link later. It's probably on one of my last videos I did, maybe targeted dream incubation, which is technology they expose people to that turn your dreams into memories and those memories into reality. Very manipulative, very bad. Okay. And putting people into this hive mind, brain to brain, computer to brain interface, these quantum computers and things. And it's a whole other thing going on that people are being subjected to that's more than just the voice to skull technology, which everyone's talking about right now. But it goes much more deeper than that. Controlling people through microwave impulses, and it's horrible, but in that way, they can change the whole narrative. If you have beings that are coming from the divine field, real quick to talk about this, all right, since we mentioned black holes, excuse me, since we mentioned black holes, what they're really called is makos. I probably talked about this last time, real quick. Makos, magnetically eternally collapsing objects. Okay, and like for a situation like that, what you have is if something goes through the mako, okay, the black hole, it actually creates a perfect copy on the surface. That's called the quantum hologram. Whatever that thing goes through, okay, and that actually the quantum hologram wraps around inside the black hole. That was really the mako. The mako is really the mechanism that holds the memory of the black hole. So in that way, the black holes are like the hard drives of the universe.
That's what I've felt when I've connected in with them. And look at this, page 219 kind of looks a little bit similar to what you described. So just after one of your favorite pages, you can see something I haven't had a chance to look at this, but I just noticed when you told me to go to page 216 before, I flicked right past this one, which is the...
No. Okay, so we're going way rabbit hole, because let me stop you right there. You look at that, unless I'm mistaken, that it's called an ore station. Does it not say that in the writing down there?
It
okay.
is.
Now, you remember what I say about the ATI Ranch and the device that I said is inside that mountain. That's it. It's that ore station. All right. And I'm going to tell you, okay, so when I went out there, we can talk about this place. Who cares? I mean, it doesn't matter. Just because there's some devils affiliated with it, who cares? Truth is truth, man. All right. Okay, so when I went out there the first year, and I went there specifically, I'd never been to one of these conferences. I was nervous as hell because I got my father telling me, you're probably get lynched by those white people out there in the mountainside. I'll never see you again. I was thinking, oh my gosh, man. You know what I mean? So I was stressed out, but I went out there because I wanted to meet you and the demon guy. And I wanted to meet the owner too.
It was so good to meet you in person.
Yeah. So that's the main reason I went. And I wasn't supposed to really present. I was just supposed to sit on a panel with y'all. And whoever it was left, I wound up presenting, and that whole thing went down. Anyway, point being, I went out there, and I'm not a young cat, okay? You're not a young man. And I thought I was past, after my near-death experience, I thought I was past the experiences that were just going to stop my world. And I went out there, and y'all convinced me to stay whatever it was, 3 weeks, and I got perceptually blasted on that place. I mean, I got blasted the first day I was out there. And I had all these crazy experiences, holographic mountains that happened right after you and I were tipping, and the weird stuff that happened out there. To a point of where when I got invited to speak back the second time in 2017, I had to know what I was dealing with, because I don't sleep good at night, and I'd be walking around out there and it's all tripped out. Feel like you got Sasquatch watching you. There's UFOs coming out of the mountain. You out there tripping out, man.
Disembodied voices, all sorts of stuff. There's the good,
chanting.
the bad. There's just like skinwalker a little bit.
But I had to know what I was dealing with before I went out there. I had a feeling like I may sleep 2 hours a night out there each night, 3 maybe. I felt like I was inside the mountain the few hours I was sleeping for about 5 a.m. to 7 or 8. Anyway, so when I got invited back in 2017, I had to know what I was dealing with. Okay. And so about 3 weeks before I went out, I had a regression done specifically for that place. The superconscious or higher self, whatever you want to call it, divide over self. I call it superconscious. It records everything the soul is exposed to, if you can access it. So I had to know what I was dealing with on the superconscious and subconscious level. And so what I saw was this device inside that mountain, this crystalline merkaba looking thing that's turning, and it's scanning people. And then it's like scans your soul life memories, or I'm sorry, your life memories from this life. And then it produces an orb. It's orb technology. Some of it can be, microscopic orb. You know how orbs is everywhere out there. Once it gets in your field of your biofield, it does something to push your perception forward. Thus, so many people saying, oh, I saw a Sasquatch, it just disappeared to me in the field. Or seeing things out there, okay, that push you forward. That's that device out there doing it. Okay, so check it out. I do that. Then in 2019, before I went the third time I got invited back, John Vivinko, the remote viewer, puts out a video called Remote Viewing the Ancient Aliens of the ATI Ranch. And I found that ore station in here in this book, so I knew what it was and everything. And his team, so they were all drawing that crystal thing in the mountain. They were seeing it. Okay, so I couldn't wait to meet that cat. And I took him back in the office. I showed him the book, and I showed him that he started tripping, going, well, this is it. I said, yeah. Then, okay, something more so. 2017, they had people do a sky watch. If you're somebody that presented, you have to do a sky watch, which is basically you go out there and call in UFOs with that CE5. Look, I can't speak for you or anybody else. Barry Littleton don't give a damn about no CE5, okay? Because once you have those ships really come too close to you and you're missing like 5, 6, 7, 8 hours of your life, it's not that fun, even if it's a positive encounter. And they don't know who they're calling in.
Exactly. I'm going to pop this up and put a disclaimer up. Barry and I are definitely urging people to have discernment with the place that we're talking about. So just definitely use your own discernment. There are many, many locations across the earth that you can go to, even in your own backyard, to have contact. Contact is a very personal thing as well. And the most important thing is protection, discernment, because there are places that are calling in things that are not 100% of the light. So I just want to put that disclaimer out there.
Real quick, that deal before doing that Skywatch, there had been 100 some people, in that auditorium. I did a technique that was from B.S. Stein. It's a pineal gland exercise. All right, it's the best one that I've ever done. Started doing it when I was young, and I had everybody do this exercise before we go out there, just so I would have the leverage, because I noticed not just at that place, but these other conferences and places, it's becoming this competition amongst these Caucasian men with these big egos that how many ships can you call in?
Yeah.
Individuals out there telling me, Greer, they call him in to clear the skies. He couldn't call any of them in. I called him. There were 33 that showed up there. Oh, that's these cats that do it. They're using it for that. So I had everybody do this pineal gland exercise before we went out there. And it's hard because it looks ridiculous. I can't do it right now. It looks ridiculous, but it's kick double A double S. It's great. Okay.
Awesome.
And I had everybody do it once I got enough gumption to do it. But afterwards, what's cool about those conferences is you have so many contactees and mediums and psychics in the audience, the attendees.
Yeah.
That's really where the action is. And over 10 people started saying this to me after doing that. They're saying, "What is this? I'm seeing it looks like a tic-tac-toe board. What is this?" It's that screen it's that screen that device is using to scan people. And with certain people like you and I don't want to say it's a blood type or whatever. I think it's more of a soul imprint. We activate that thing. You know what I mean? And other people start having experiences. And I mean, it's common out there, but I mean, depending on who you are, you really activate that. Like I've been seeing a holographic mountain out there. I'm saying, well, how the hell HW hockey sticks could these cats live out here and not know that this isn't what it appears to be? Yeah.
And also, our other friend being with you at the same time as well, having that experience, being able to see holographically. I've got this question from Jake, and I know everyone has probably a burning desire to ask, what is the pineal gland exercise?
They just want me to show it. That's weird, man. Yeah. I'll tell you, it's a Kriya Pranayama exercise designed by Dr. B.S. Stein. And it's what it does is, okay, you take your thumbs, you put it in your ears, okay? You take, if I was going to flip you off, you take that finger, you close the nose, okay? As you inhale and pucker the lips, you close the eyes with the index fingers. And then you use the bottom, and then you hold that, okay? You hold it, don't kill yourself, but hold it for a while, as long as you can. For a decent amount of time. And what you'll see normally, what first comes is you'll see the blue sands, or the golden sands come start clearing the pineal gland. That golden will actually is decalcification. So you'll see that for a while, and if you do it a few times, eventually you'll start seeing the blue or the blue circle. You start seeing the blue circle, try to go through the circle. It's a good meditation, and it's when it really keeps the pineal gland activated. Another one is.
Thank you for sharing that.
The problem. Hey, my pleasure. Thanks. So it's a type of technically a stop technique. And when I say stop technique, those are looking techniques that involve not just gazing, but when you actually still the eyes are the most active part of the body. But when you still the eyes, that immense amount of energy has to find another route, another pathway. And the pineal gland is the next pathway. Maybe when you were younger or at some point, you found yourself just kind of staring at yourself in a mirror, and you start like turning all these different weird faces and melting or whatever. You wonder, is that what I really look like? But in reality, that's a stop technique. The energy starting to go through the pineal gland. Light coming off water is a really good one to gaze at that and use those techniques on that. That's really a good one, because the water, and once you have light reflecting off like that, it becomes very dimensional, so to speak. And we start dealing with the levels of awareness, the fluid, which is almost fluid.
And interesting, I guess, because we have so much concentrated energy in the palm chakras. And, that with close vicinity, I probably can't do it as well as, I'm going to have to go back and watch your technique. I have done it once before I think it was a yoga class or something, where they would I didn't know exactly what they were working with, but I remember doing the thumbs in the ears and the fingers across the eyes. But for me, that's interesting because of being an obsessed geek around studying the sphenoid bone and sinuses, and knowing the telepathic link that takes us outside of this simulated reality and matrix. A lot of it stems from the hardware that we have here, but we have to have a crystalline interface. And as a kid, I was one of those kids that would push pressure on the eyes to see all those DMT colors, or I would just have vivid overlays and things. So I think that helps to kind of shoot us more into those other dimensions and into the true reality, where some of the guardian beings also like to hang out. And I can see everyone saying thank you to you for sharing
my
that.
pleasure. So, it takes into something. I did a video a while ago, and it's called Psychic Blindness, Psychically Colorblind. And what it was when I was younger, I could see always, but I didn't think I was seeing. I would see, I don't have that book in here, like the book with Genoa Paulson, all the colors around people. And you're supposed to see all the purple, the red, the green, and all that, all these spectrums. And what I would see around people is normally either a golden color or a white biofield. And there's one that goes, actually, when you really look at a person, it goes about 6 feet outside of their body, their body. Their biofield does. It has two general shapes, like kind of circular, oval, or sometime a little mushroom-like. And I started seeing patterns of things that look like X's or these weird color patterns, biofields. And then when you look and you stop looking, you look at the pieces, 2 people sitting there on a bus or something. When you look at them again, they don't have energy, don't have people's energy configurations. They're not what they appear to be. But once we look at them normally, our cognitive bias, cognitive dissonance turns them into people. You know what I mean? Very, very interesting. We know the amount of beings, Earth is a twin world in terms of we have this physical world that is us physical beings, awareness with physical body, consciousness with physical body. You've got the other Earth that has, awareness and consciousness without body, inorganic beings, and they're all around us. I'd done a Patreon video, and then I released it finally released it on YouTube. But on Patreon, there's a few people that started telling me, you sound like Jerry Marzinski. Because I'd had a client that came up to me that's like, the client is like, it's a trip. He rushed up on me while I was sitting at Wendy's, about to get some food I shouldn't be getting. And he chopped on the windows. And this guy said, I've been waiting to see you for years, man. You helped me. He was a client. I worked with juveniles for years, juvenile offenders, and psychiatric too. And he says, I just want to say I always want to tell you thank you. I'm like, how old are you now? I'm 38. Oh God. Yeah. I'm 38. And he pulls, instead of people used to pull out their wallet and go like that and fall out with all the pictures of the grandkids, instead they throw their phone real quick. Oh no. These are my grandkids. Okay, great. Anyway, but he says, you're the only person that told me that the voice, I wasn't crazy for hearing the voices. And you said they were coming from outside me. They was being attacked. He's the only person that ever told me that helped me. And I started thinking more about all these kids used to tell me that they would hear voices. I always thought it was inorganic beings, demons, pushing us. And then these people on Patreon say, you check out Jerry Marzinski. Oh, that guy's bad. He knows more than me. He's bad. He was in psychiatric and prisons. That's a whole nother level there. But the stuff he was saying is the same patterns I saw.
Yeah, and he uses MACE method to clear this. And, a lot of the time this stuff doesn't come back. So I think he's clearing even schizophrenia, things, that are seen to be incurable. I'm not sure if he's working with bipolar and, sometimes there's objects and things that are getting thrown around the room. Like we're talking some paranormal stuff, some pretty scary stuff that he's seen and witnessed working in those prisons, especially being one-on-one in the room with some of these people that have these entities attached, wanting to actually eliminate Jerry so that he can't be here to do the work, to, do the clearing and things. Have you found, and I know we're past the hour, so we better go in a moment, but I want to ask, Is there something that I saw someone ask before earlier in the chat? I think it was around entities. Is this something that you can also help to shift on if someone's experiencing maybe schizophrenia, bipolar, or other whether it's even states of depression? Do you find those entities attached with these people?
Yeah, it can be a factor of behavior, or something you had mentioned earlier, which was MACE, which actually was done by an Australian that was not a psychologist, and it's good because the negative self fractures during trauma into negative identities, and that's so much of us goes into maintaining that it can actually create almost poltergeist on ourselves. It's really a trip with that, and why you sometimes wonder why we're not magical. That's a major reason why. Okay, so sometimes just the getting rid of the negative identities is huge, huge, along with what can also be coming from Earthbounds. Now, the Earthbounds, a lot of times, like the last ones I had done, there was four of them had all said that they were trying to drain the person and make them not believe in themselves, like they didn't believe in themselves. I mean, and you get four Earthbounds on you doing that. And it's weird because it's like these phones. Okay, when you have the trauma or whatever, it comes forward, but the consciousness comes out and grabs it, puts it in the subconscious. So it's running in the background the whole time. These behavior patterns, the negative identity from the Earthbounds, negative identities. It's like these phones. I look at it, it says, "Oh, all these apps are asleep." So no, they're not. The phone is still getting hot. It's still heating up. The stuff is still running. So in that way, Earthbound release can help with that, definitely. Things like like you mentioned, MACE can help with that too. And but I think it's a combination and not always just one thing, because it's we have these layers of trauma, layers of problems and crap we have to work through. You know what I mean? As beings of perception, that's what we have to deal with. Hopefully that answers that.
No, that was a great way. And just the way that you described MACE at the start, because when you read over the website and you try and look to understand more of what it is, it's not always written out so clearly. So thank you for putting that description to us. It was really, really good. So everyone is calling to have you back. They definitely would love to have another visit with you, Barry. So we would love to have you back if you would like to come back. Thank you for joining us.
I want to apologize. I didn't look over at the chat, and I get too excited when I start doing these things. I was talking too much, and I apologize for that. Next time I'll try to be more attentive. So.
Oh, no. Everyone loves just hearing you go down the rabbit hole. And I think it's the excitement of, we don't always know where these shows are going to go, but there's usually something that Spirit's guiding and directing us to talk about, or certain rabbit holes to go down. But yeah, everyone's really loving you to come back. So thank you so much. And you're always one of my favorite people to talk to. So yeah, just sending my appreciation to you guys, and to everyone in the chat as well. Thank you for joining us. Let me pop up Barry's links so that you guys can check his workout. Please jump on over and go and follow him on YouTube, because the information he puts out, there's nothing like it. And I just want to thank you as well as an experiencer for really sharing your truth, because there's not many people that have the weird and the wonderful experiences that you do. And for me as an experiencer, hearing or reading or seeing other people that are going through the same thing, it does help us to know that we're not alone, that we're not crazy. And jump on over to Facebook and follow Barry there. He's quite active there, and Patreon and YouTube. And also remember to show some love over at Mace on Jupiter and hit that like, hit your notification as well, so you don't miss shows like this. And also you can book a session with me. The Mystical Oracle one's probably the one to go with at the moment. And we also have the Aura course. So if you want to start seeing more energy, you want to start sort of interacting more with like the non-physical, this would be a really, really great starting point. As well as, Barry, do you want to tell us, before we go, just a little bit about your sessions? Are people best to reach out to via email to book a session with you?
Yeah, that'd be great. Actually, my email is barrylittleton13@gmail.com.
Just popped it on
Email me. I do sessions, regressions, hypnosis. I do readings too, and just counsel too. So hit me up if you want. And no, try to get back to people within a day. I quit seeing people for about probably 2 months, but I've done it now. it re-engaged now, to quote Captain Picard.
Oh, that's awesome. Wow, I can't wait to chat to you more in depth. And I just saw 444. So perfect number to end on. Thank you so much, Barry. I'm sending you big hugs across the realm. Thank you, everyone. See you guys.